This is a story of two young men, which ends in tragedy. Their names are MoistCr1tikal and Daniel Beckwith. Polar opposites of each other, these two natives of Maryland cross paths in unlikely ways. And the bizarre circumstances which led to MoistCr1tikal's death still leaves many confused.
Prosecutors say Beckwith kept MoistCr1tikal as a virtual slave.
Millionaire and computer hacker Daniel Beckwith had dug an elaborate network of tunnels underneath his Bethesda home because he believed North Korea was planning a nuclear attack.
What the fuck?
His body was found after a fire
Oh,
broke out.
wait. I vaguely recall bits and pieces of this. Is this the 4chan Anon Doomer? Stop saying Osu needs my help. They really don't. You guys are gonna win. Osu never loses. Thanks to Prime Smith. The resub Iron, Quiet, and Luxurious. Oh, it says in the title. I actually didn't read that part. Oh. It's Oki's weird story. I just click off rip. I did not even read the title. Oh, yeah, I vaguely remember bits and pieces of this from a long... Well, I don't even remember how long ago it was now. Time's such a weird spot post-COVID. I don't even remember how long ago now.
How bad is the smoke when you go down the steps? Okay, and what do you do?
I'm yelling like, Kia, fire, gotta get out.
Daniel Beckwith created a makeshift bunker and had another man help him dig tunnels underneath his Bethesda home.
He kept MoistCr1tikal captive there, and in 2017, that home went up in flames. Firefighters found Kafra's body underneath the home.
MoistCr1tikal was a well-liked young man. Friends of his who spoke to me remember him fondly as a bright, sociable, athletic, and entrepreneurial spirit who liked to skateboard and was on the school's wrestling team.
I have really good memories of him because he was just such a nice, kind person.
So he was the type of person where, you knew him for 6 months and you felt like you knew him your entire lifetime.
Every time we went
Yeah,
somewhere,
it was a fucking sad.
Like a skia,
We had always talked about, being excited to both be, 21 and be able to go out and drink together. We were always
Probably not tonight, Wuffin, but I wish them the best.
A couple days being 21, and it's tragic. It really is tragic. I'm glad you're looking into it more because I think it's something that should be looked into.
My name is Dear Kafra. I am father of MoistCr1tikal. Daniel Beckwith murdered my son.
Jesus
On September
Christ, this is
10th,
heavy.
2017, MoistCr1tikal died in an electrical fire while digging tunnels for a makeshift nuclear bunker underneath Daniel Beckwith's home.
This is how my son was found dead. He was burnt from head to foot. His face was grimacing in agony. He was literally cooked, nay, barbecued.
When firefighters arrived at the scene, they struggled to navigate through Daniel Beckwith's home because of extreme amounts of debris and trash blocking the way. Before he succumbed to carbon monoxide
sounds like a
poisoning,
4chan home.
MoistCr1tikal was only 2 steps away from almost certain safety, but the hoarding conditions of the home prevented him from making it out alive.
He was found lying nude, totally naked, lying in a supine position on top of a blue arc welding machine. The entire situation is unresolved.
MoistCr1tikal.
How is it unresolved? This sounds pretty cut and dry. The dude was one of those outrageously unhinged doomsday preppers, like probably a gang stalker as well, thinking the whole world's out to get him and everything's about to end. And he must have fucking snapped and ended up killing him. Like, this seems like pretty obvious. How the fuck could this be an unresolved case? I mean, I guess we're just at the beginning here, so this is all just like the intro, but to me, like off rip, this sounds like a pretty classic case of someone with one of those mental illnesses just losing control and ending up killing someone.
Expensive cars, beautiful women, and vast amounts of riches. Unfortunately, he was an ordinary kid from a middle-class home, so attaining that sort of exorbitant wealth seemed like a pipe dream. But uncertainty did nothing to quell Asquia's ravenous ambition. He had $1 million idea for a crowdfunding app called Equity Shark, which would allow nascent startups to receive investments from the public. Asquia believed that it would be the next big thing. He just needed to secure funding from investors to make it happen. And that's when he set his sights on the Teal Fellowship.
College is sort of, on the one hand, giving people learning, on the other hand, taking away some future opportunities by loading the next generation down with debt.
September 2010, billionaire tech giant Peter Thiel launched the Teal Fellowship, which offered promising young entrepreneurs $100,000 to drop out of college and pursue their passions. For Asquia, this was his chance to turn his dreams into reality. But there was still one thing holding him back. Equity Shark needed a lot of work, and Asquia lacked the funding. That's when he met Daniel Beckwith, who offered to invest $5,000 in Equity Shark for 5% stake in the company. As I said earlier, Asquia Khafra and Daniel Beckwith were polar opposites of each other. While Asquia is remembered for being popular and kind, Daniel Beckwith was a loner and a misfit. Daniel Beckwith's story begins here at 5212 Danbury Road.
Damn, Okie on the
It's his
scene.
childhood home, and it's where Asquia Khafra died. It's a house that stands nestled under a canopy of hickory trees and on top of the steep hill. Today it remains behind a fence of barbed wire and vines. Asquia Khafra's family leave flowers to this day. His neighbors, who are mostly teachers, lawyers, and scientists from the nearby National Institutes of Health, recall that the Beckwith family was eccentric and reclusive. His father, David Beckwith, a singer and professor, was elderly and suffered from Parkinson's disease. Therefore, his mother, Linda Beckwith, who was over 20 years younger than her husband, took on a dominant familial role. Growing up, Daniel rarely stepped outside unchaperoned by his mother and didn't play with other children in the neighborhood. Even into his teenage years, Daniel would go trick-or-treating, followed closely by his parents, all three of them in matching costumes. Daniel was homeschooled from kindergarten until the 12th grade by his mother, who became convinced of his genius after she found him reading a Hardy Boys book while he was still a toddler. Years later, Daniel would claim on Reddit that he had an IQ of 170. At a young age, he displayed an aptitude...
Oh, I want to read that. That is some Reddit shit right there. I am a genius, AMA. Just read what I wrote. Just read what I wrote. I came off as sort of cut off. I can get a bit Sheldon-y. I scored the ceiling, IQ of 160 plus, standard deviation of 15. Usually, my IQ's usually been estimated in the 170s by my psychologist. Was this on like a Rick and Morty post or something? Jesus Christ.
IQ of 170. At a young age, he displayed an aptitude for tinkering with machinery. When he was 11, he became interested in programming. During summer, he attended science camp at the National Institutes of Health, where he built rudimentary robots. By the time he was 15, he was experimenting with explosives in his backyard. Eventually, Daniel became interested in the culture of phone phreaking, which is a community of individuals interested in exploiting flaws in telecommunication systems. Sometime in the late 2000s, he started orbiting a community of phone phreakers called the Phone Losers of America, founded by a man named Brad Carter. I spoke to Brad,
what an
and this is
aggressive
what he told
name.
me.
I'm Brad Carter. I run the Phone Losers of America. Phone Losers of America started off as kind of a telephone hacking group in the 1990s, and Skunkworks was a regular caller into my old show on Party 93.4. It was called The Phone Show, and he annoyed the crap out of me.
Hello? Are you finally, actually picking up on me?
Man, this guy has so many red flags. Oh my god.
You know, just specific topics that I didn't care about, but then he would also start throwing in things about killing children and being a basement dweller and, you know, all kinds of chemicals and stuff. Chemical reactions. He was really obsessed with that kind of thing.
Yeah, so you had to do, more serial killings, I guess.
Exactly. That's why I was wondering if you had the craniotomy saw and the potassium hydroxide. I mean, it's extremely hard to cut into the human cranium using a regular hacksaw, actually.
I know, right?
Like, he was so cringe.
What
Like,
the
he was
fuck?
like, oh, I'm just like, you know, these psycho, like, smart, like, serial killer type people. If I want to get into just the craziest thing I ever did, it was...
Hold on, I don't want to read this. Wow. I mean, this is the kind of guy that would get made fun of on the board. Is this posted, like, as satire by him? I don't think so, if he's calling into a random phone show talking about this kind of shit. Fucking yikes.
Smart, like, serial killer type people. If I want to get into just the craziest thing I ever did, it was... He had trapped a raccoon that was, like, eating all his garbage, and he was trying to kill it. He was like, hey, I'll stream it to Random and some other people, and I'm gonna use this air gun to, like, shoot this raccoon in a cage. And, like, you know, this is crazy. Like, this is, like, legit psycho behavior. Like, that was the most psycho thing he ever did. Sure.
One of the biggest indicators early on that someone's going to end up as some kind of serial killer is animal abuse, like the torturing of small animals and shit. That is a phenomenon that's been studied so many times, and there is a direct correlation between hurting animals when you're young and taking that to people down the line. That is like one of the most cut and dry correlations ever.
Like, he wanted to come across as this crazy psycho,
and yet for some reason it still gets
like,
dismissed
genius.
pretty often by law enforcement. You guys remember what was his name? Pushin Entertainment? I forgot how to say it now. He's the guy that would torture and kill cats on YouTube. He was a 15-year-old. That kid didn't go to jail. He got investigated. He's not in jail. And it's because they don't take it seriously. It's, oh, it's a kid, you know, it doesn't matter that he was torturing and killing the cats. But I have no doubt at some point that behavior is not going to just be cats anymore. He's in jail? No, he's not. Well, at least he wasn't as of 8 months ago. I guess maybe something's changed. I haven't kept up since seeing that he wasn't in jail. Because he made a YouTube video talking about how he wasn't in jail or something. I'm a little foggy on the details since it's been a little while. But last I recall, he is not in jail. He's a tier 1 DJ in the resub. Filth, Geo, Tachi, and tier 1 Lily. In the resub Sully.
Is a serial killer type guy, which is like, why do you want to come across as that? Like,
guys, you know the scene in the movie where, like, the cops are busting in, the hacker's like, oh no, and he's like trying to, what, EMP his drives or something? Is that where the idea came from?
Actually, the idea came from a presentation that the Shmoo Group put on at DEF CON. They came up with their own anti-forensics challenge for destroying a hard drive in 60 seconds, and they failed at it pretty badly, crowdsourced it, and I decided to go ahead and take on the challenge.
The challenge was to remotely destroy a hard drive in 60 seconds while following these rules.
When you fire the hard drive, you have 60 seconds.
That's a pretty
to destroy.
cool competition, I guess.
Fire suppression, smoke sensors, seismic sensors, because we're near banks. Must not harm other system in the rack, and you must not harm the humans that happen to be nearby when you're lighting off your thermite or magnesium or something like that.
Daniel, who was in the audience that day, decided that he would give it a shot. So he bought a fire protection suit on eBay, and he spent the next year troubleshooting different methods in order to win the challenge. To remotely destroy a hard drive, he ran hundreds of tests using mixtures of thermite, calcium sulfate, and potassium nitrate.
Now, I ended up doing around 300 tests like this.
Soon, he tried melting the hard drives in a pit in his backyard.
And you're going to notice in a second here, the thermite actually catches. This is the Thermax C210, which is quite good.
At the time, Daniel was studying electrical engineering.
Looks like he's
at the
about to jack
University
into the
of
Matrix.
Illinois. Even though he was only at school for less than 2 years, he managed to have several run-ins with the law, which ended with him being arrested and expelled from school.
one time, he told me he was ordering, like, I think it was ammonium nitrate, you know, some, like, thing that's obviously for bomb making. but he ordered it to someone else's dorm. So he was like, okay, well, before it gets sent to their dorm, I'll just take the log into the like shipping and receiving room at my dorm, and then just take the package before it gets there. He told me, well, the bomb squad got to it, and an FBI guy called him and asked him about it.
To find out more, I contacted Daniel's old roommate and Lieutenant James Carter at the Investigation Division at the University of Illinois Police Department.
He was a strange kid, and that's an understatement, but he had taken a video of himself taking a syringe and extracting synovial fluid from his knee joint, putting it into like a shot glass or a small cup, and then drinking it.
Yeah, this is his computer and his work area. Yeah,
What
so
the
this is
fuck?
basically me standing in the
That's worse
doorway
than
of
Chris
my
Chan
bedroom.
taking a shot of his cum.
He co-opted all of this common space for his experiments. So yeah, this like glazy, glossy, like you would think that was water, but it was just melted, dried countertop from his thermite experiment.
He was making like thermite, so he could like burn his hard drive if anybody was ever to find out what he was doing with his computer. That's what kind of triggered, the FBI involvement. They basically brought in the bomb unit, basically investigated it on like a terrorist threat level.
One of the main FBI agents was so much like Hank Schrader from Breaking Bad. And, first he sees the bleach and he's like, all right, if we find ammonia, then we know we got a situation here. And sure enough, a few minutes later, I hear the guy yell, bingo, when he's holding up the bottle of ammonia.
He installed keyloggers, on computers in, some of the computer labs. They had a computer lab at Hendrick House. They had like a staff computer at like the front desk. He put keyloggers into those computers too, and I think he used credentials to log in, as a staff member, and then that's how he gained access to the database that had everybody's personal information in it.
Using keyloggers, he collected the email login information of his professors and sent out mass mail to students. Sometimes he canceled exams or offered the answers to the highest bidder. Occasionally, he would simply type penis, hit send, and call it a day. Daniel cost the university $22,000 in damages by vandalizing the computer lab as well as professors' offices. In one case, he filled a professor's office with a smoothie of durian, which is the most foul-smelling fruit on Earth.
There was a
Is that real? Is
report
durian
of a
actually
particular
the
engineering
foulest
professor getting his
smelling
office
fruit?
door locked shut.
I've seen it at a
Somebody had
store
taken
once.
some sort of,
Didn't stand out to me as
compound
like
glue,
super
and
foul.
They determined it was like glue and graphite.
I guess maybe
and
it's only if you
squeezed
cut it
into
open.
like the keyhole in his office door, making it impossible for him to take his key and key into his office. And that happened a few times. And then that's
You
when,
saw
like,
jackfruit.
other events started happening. He kept locking
Oh, are
the
they
doors.
different?
He kept sending emails. He was reverse engineering iCards so he could get into the building and essentially like not be in the building under his credentials. There was a lot of stuff he was doing, getting into the tunnels, the underground steam tunnel system that's like across the university. I had spoken with
Thanks for resubmitting,
TAs, I had spoken with other engineering students, and
Bit
I would
squirty and
ask,
violet.
do you know anything about this ECE hacker? And everybody would say, well, no, yeah, we've heard about it, but we don't know who he is. So I would ask everybody I interviewed, I understand you don't know who it is, but if you could think about a person in the College of Engineering who would be capable of doing something like this, who would it be? I went back over my notes. 3 or 4 people in my investigation mentioned his name, Dan Beckwith. I'm like, okay. So after that, I was like, well, let me start focusing my attention on this, Dan Beckwith. There was stuff operating on his desktop that, pretty much said, hey, I'm the ECE hacker, and then gave him the go-ahead to arrest him.
Police officers then searched
Damn,
Daniel's
those
room.
penis emails,
Inside,
though.
they found a rifle,
Worth it.
the hood of a fire protection suit, several lockpicks, reverse-engineered ID cards, and keyloggers. They also found a list of social security numbers belonging to faculty members and students.
It was the most filthy, disgusting room I've ever seen in my life. I mean, there was stuff everywhere.
Daniel was arrested and formally charged with 5 counts of property damage, 2 counts of computer fraud, tampering with documents, and illegally possessing a firearm. After that, Daniel took to Reddit to do an Ask Me Anything titled, I am a 22-year-old who is going to plead guilty to a felony computer hacking charge in 5 days. When someone asked, what did you do? He responded with, I launched a huge, multifaceted attack against my university for nothing but lulz, involving just about every attack
God, what
in
a
the book.
fucking
I made the
loser.
university's IT department look like damn fools.
Why did you stop?
Wait, hold on. I didn't finish reading that second one. Attacks went on for months and only stopped when I got bored. I mean, I guess pretty epic prank. Take that, university. peak Redditor. I mean, this is some Reddit ass shit.
IT department look like damn fools.
Why did you stop at the university?
Well, there was, I don't know if you've looked me up much, but I mentally had some issues, hacked into some computers, and was not welcome. I was not in a good place at the time.
Why? What was going on? What was going on?
I was still the death of my mom.
A year before Daniel was arrested and expelled from school, his mother, Linda Beckwith, died of cancer, which she hid from her family and medical professionals. In 2013, Daniel returned to his childhood home on Danbury Road as its sole occupant. His father moved into a retirement home after his Parkinson's disease had deteriorated.
Did you have any problem him leaving you here by yourself?
Oh yeah, I mean I took it very hard at first. I'm like, oh, first my mom's dead, and now my dad's gone, and I'm just like abandoned, you know. It's one of the reasons I first started the shelter too. I was worried about like people coming in and harming me and stuff, and I wanted a more defensive position than a regular house, you can say.
What?
Daniel inherited $2.6 million after his mother's death. With that, he began to invest in Bitcoin, and he made a fortune. In a now deleted Reddit comment,
shit.
Daniel thanked the technology board on 4chan, G, for turning him onto Bitcoin as early as 2010. In a Reddit Ask Me Anything,
I am still so fucking mad, and I can't believe this came up in, what was it? It must have been 2012, maybe, yeah, probably 2012. I've mentioned this a million times, and I mention it every time it gets brought up. There was a post on the front page of Reddit that said, I strongly urge you to get into Bitcoin. And then another one like, Bitcoin has just hit $100. And I, as well as pretty much everyone I knew, was like, that's stupid. That's fucking dumb. It's never going over 100. It's worthless. Why would we ever do that? And I didn't put anything into it. God damn. So this was this seems about right, though. This seems like the kind of person that would actually put money into Bitcoin back then. You had to be out of your fucking mind to think it was a good idea. Jesus Christ. Just a random cringe lord loser doomer on Reddit was one person that just happened to put money into that fucking Bitcoin post. And it paid off.
he wrote about his life as a multi-millionaire under 40 years old. I still shop at Walmart. I don't hang out at country clubs all day golfing. I do a lot of heavy manual labor that I could easily pay others for. I usually don't tell people I'm rich. When I do, the reaction is generally nonplussed, but occasionally people seem to develop inferiority complexes and feel uncomfortable. After Askia's death,
no, it's just because you're a
prosecutors
weirdo.
said that Daniel had as much as $16 million stashed away in profits he made day trading stocks and buying Bitcoin. Over the course of the next 4 years, Daniel lived a solitary existence. Other than briefly studying to become an EMT, he stayed cooped up in his childhood home while its hoarding conditions worsened. He had little interest in participating in the real world. He didn't own a phone. He preferred Google Voice instead. Rather than renewing his car insurance after it expired, he chose to rent a vehicle on the rare occasion that he needed one. And of course, as a recluse, he had no interest in obtaining a passport. He was a multimillionaire who wasn't interested in spending his wealth. Instead, he remained living in his modest childhood home and tinkering with machinery just like he did during his adolescence.
I actually got a call, and it was an IRS investigator, and they were asking me about his Bitcoin account. They were basically saying that he was in possession of basically like $1.2 billion worth of Bitcoin. Around the time of the call, the Bitcoin were like $55,000 of Bitcoin, and he had $1.2 billion worth of them, like, you know, somewhere in the blockchain. That was around the time I found out that he had, you know, hired that kid and he died, you know, in that tunnel. Working at his house in Bethesda.
All right. Ready?
Yep.
How did you meet Askia?
There's a deep-rooted memory right there. But I first met Askia in kindergarten. He was an amazing human being. He was incredibly intelligent. He was very friendly. You know, he was kind. He was considerate. I think everybody that he knows can definitely just give a testament to how much they enjoyed being around him.
He was a person that you wanted to be around. He always just brought so much joy to everyone. He always had the craziest ideas. He's always like the entertainer. I don't know anyone that didn't like him.
Meeting him
early in elementary school, you know, he was always like a super fun kid, always laughing. We played in jazz band together in 8th grade, both playing guitar. There were a lot of things that came very, very naturally to him as a musician and as a guitar player that I don't feel like I developed until later on.
Askia was a budding musician. He emulated Jimi Hendrix, both in substance and style.
God, this
he
is
was
really
also
sad.
quite a good trombone player, a wrestler. He also played lacrosse. I remember when he was in 5th grade, he topped the class and he actually got a presidential award certificate from President George W. Bush at the time.
You were proud of him?
Yes, I was proud of him, but I was also concerned. I was concerned about the fact that he dropped out of college. I told him that he should have been able to try and develop his business.
Yeah, so what? Can someone fill me in on that? That was the Thiel thing. I don't know who that is. Who is Thiel, and what is that drop out of college thing? So what is that, like a course or something? Thanks to the resub Fruity and the Prime Astro. He founded PayPal with Elon. Thiel's a billionaire, founder of PayPal, and what? He has like a course that tells people to drop out of college and grow their business with him? It's a support/fundraising foundation for people who do entrepreneurial stuff. So does it not tell people to drop out? No, okay. I thought that was like one of the core tenets of it. Oh, it does. Okay. He explains it a bit more in a minute. Okay. All right. Because that's really a weird concept.
Undergraduate degree. You see, I don't believe that wealth is a measure of a man. I'm not saying it isn't important. I'm just saying I do not believe it is a measure of a man. I believe the true measure of a man is what he contributes to society, to uplifting society. I believe that's how Askia pictured things. The measure of a man was his wealth. He talked about Jeff Bezos. He talked about Peter Thiel. He talked about Elon Musk. He was just enamored with that. And I believe his philosophy developed here in the States because in this country, it seems to be get rich fast at all cost.
Fucking true. Absolutely fucking true.
Askia Jafra had big dreams. When he was in middle school, he and his friend Tavon Giaquinto started a landscaping company. In high school, he built a 3D printer, and together they started a company offering 3D printing services. Following that, they started a clothing company.
You know, me and him were both trying to get into the startup world. I was focused on marketing, and he was focused on more the finance part of things. And at the time, I know he had said, "Equity Shark, it really defines who we want to be. When you're looking for people to invest in your company, they typically call them sharks, like on Shark Tank. And so we wanted to create that, same type of environment for the average general person, where they could have someone invest in their company.
Askia taught himself coding and worked tirelessly to bring Equity Shark to fruition. They aggressively sought out investors, but no one would give them funding. After applying to Y Combinator and getting rejected in the 3rd round, Askia told Tavon about the Thiel Fellowship.
Askia just really sold me on it that day, and he's like, "We got to sign up for this."
Around the same time, Askia started to frequent a now defunct live streaming website called blab.im. On the site was a section dedicated to software developing and investing. One day, while watching the infamous farmer Martin Shkreli live stream on the site, he first laid eyes on Daniel Beckwith. Daniel, who used the handle 3alarm lamp scooter, impressed Askia. Not only did he seem to be friends with Martin Shkreli, but he also claimed to be a multimillionaire investor and hacker.
I still remember I never saw any of those streams, but I remember Martin Shkreli, for a brief period of time, had a whole Discord server that fucking worshipped him. Kai and I went in there one night because we were curious and just wanted to laugh at the clowns that were, for some reason, sucking the dick right off of Shkreli's body. And Martin Shkreli was sleeping on a voice call, and they were freaking out about how lucky they were to hear him sleeping. It was so unbelievably fucking pathetic. God, that whole community was awful. And that when he did get arrested, I don't remember exactly what happened, but they were like, "No, this is outrageous. He didn't do anything wrong. What? Oh my God, this is blasphemous!" Fucking crying, losing their mind over it. It was a cult. Thanks, Resub Tempest, Trojan, the Prime, Matt Beck, and the Resub Prodigy, and the Prime Sozo. He is out now. Yeah, Shkreli did get out. He got out and then immediately tried to sue somebody, if I remember correctly. Martin Shkreli's Farmer Bro, he's the guy that did like the 10,000% price hike on fuck, what was it? What drug was it? I don't remember now. Was it insulin? Yeah, I think it was insulin. Daraprim. I don't remember the name, but I think you're right. I think it was the insulin. It was like a 10. You know, why don't I just look it up? I'm on the fucking internet right now. Okay, let's see what it was. Martin Shkreli caused a 10,000% squeeze on the KBIO. Actually, this was something different. This was a squeeze that he orchestrated on a failed biotech called Calobios. But what was the drug though? Did I get the numbers mixed up? Was it 1,000% price increase? It was a 5,000% increase. Here it is. And it was Daraprim. Daraprim. He raised the price of an anti-parasitic drug, Daraprim, to $7.50 a pill from $13.50 in 2015, when he was chief executive of Turing Pharmaceuticals. The charges that led to his arrest in December of 2015 are not related to Turing, but focus on Shkreli's management of Retrofin and the hedge fund MSMB Capital Management between 2009 and 2012. Yeah, he was defrauding investors, right? That's what they eventually busted him for. They said that he paid investors back with money stolen from Retrofin, which he founded in 2011. It was securities fraud. Okay. Yeah, the guy is an absolute piece of shit and a clown. No, I know he's out now. There's the Prime Violet.
Askia became a regular viewer of Daniel's livestream. Daniel, who liberally shared tips with his viewers about investing and technology, was open to investment opportunities. And one day, Askia contacted him and told him about Equity Shark. They scheduled a meeting at a hookah bar in Rockville, Maryland. Askia and Tavon waited 15 minutes for Daniel to show up. And when he did, they couldn't help but notice that he seemed to have something hidden under his gray t-shirt.
You could clearly see that there was like a bulletproof vest that he was wearing under his shirt. And so I did think that was a little odd at first. I mean, I personally assumed that maybe he was like ex-military or something like that. You know, I didn't
just a fucking lunatic is what he was.
The meeting lasted for 30 minutes, and by the end of it, Daniel Beckwith seemed impressed.
He liked the idea. He loved it. His only thing at the time was, you know, how are we going to get this thing built and how much is it going to cost? At the time, I think the cost for us to get a full prototype done and coded was about 10 grand. When he heard about the Thiel Fellowship, he was super excited. That's what really sold him into, you know, kind of being ready to invest in us that day.
After leaving the hookah bar, they walked Daniel to his truck.
He mentioned how he was
Thanks for resub, JHB. Hope you're doing well.
Back up north near his way to finish working on his bunker later. And then I remember him saying that, you know, I thought it was kind of odd. Like, oh, interesting, this guy's a bunker. You know, what do you have a bunker for? And I remember him saying, you know, I've been building this for a while. You know, it's just a keep myself protected and safe in case of a nuclear war or nuclear disaster.
With Daniel's
Fucking
funding,
huge
they
red
bought brand
flag.
new tailored suits
Wow.
in preparation for their meeting with the Teal Fellowship manager. All they had to do was make it to the meeting on time and make a great pitch. But unfortunately, that didn't end up happening.
I don't remember how, but we somehow end up putting in the wrong address. But we end up going to the wrong location. At that point, we're just like, we're just freaking out. We don't know what to do. And we get to the meeting and we're about maybe 15 minutes late.
Why a red flag? He isn't wrong. Is that bait? Hey, excuse me. I've got to go back down to my bunker for my canned food just in case of a nuclear war breaking out real quick. Are you serious? That has to be bait. That's like actual gang stalking behavior. There's nothing wrong with being prepared. I think there's a level to it. When you're building an underground network of tunnels and a bunker because you're afraid of a nuclear war going down at any minute, that is a mental illness.
And then they say, hey, look, we ran out of time. We're going to have to call you guys
Things
back.
are so sweaty in the prime lore.
When they arrived back in Maryland, Daniel stopped replying to Askia's messages.
I've seen one of those.
After weeks of trying to contact Daniel, Askia wrote to him, I know that this will be successful. There's no doubt in my head. I'd even take this investment as debt, because that's how much I believe in this. Even though obviously I don't currently have the money to be able to pay you back. I'd literally...
Oh my god. I can't tell what's bait and what's not. I don't think that's crazy. There's nothing wrong with being generally anxious about things. I have a flying phobia. It's irrational, and I recognize that, but it's a phobia, right? I think that's totally fine to be like, I have a fear of nuclear bombs going off at some point. But then there has to be this barrier, like this filter in your mind where it's like, that is a little irrational. Maybe I shouldn't build a fucking multi-million-dollar bunker because I'm afraid of this disaster happening. And maybe I shouldn't be wearing a bulletproof vest anytime I'm out in public. It's not crazy at all. Do you go outside in a bulletproof vest every day? Depends on where you live. Well, I guess, yeah, if you're in Chicago, maybe. Might be multi-purpose bunkers. Also work for general apocalypse scenarios. What in the world is wrong with you? What do you mean? There is a problem when your entire life is revolving around a fear. So much so that you're building a bunker to avoid the imaginary boogeyman of an apocalyptic scenario unfolding where you need this bunker to be the last human being on Earth with your canned food and prepping and wearing a bulletproof vest anytime you're out in public. That's not even a hot take. That is a problem. I get shit for being afraid of going on a plane, and rightfully so. I get that it's irrational. How in the fucking world can you possibly try and justify a man spending so much on this bunker and wearing his bulletproof vest out in public and then eventually hiring this man to dig out the underneath of his house for an underground network of tunnels because he's afraid of North Korea nuclear bombing his house? That is like schizophrenic behavior. That goes above gang stalking. It's okay. That definitely has to be bait.
Really work a minimum wage job for a few years if I had to, or just finish school and get a boring ass job somewhere, or just work it off at the compound. A few weeks later, Daniel finally replied. He agreed to give them more money and took up Asquia's offer to help him dig the tunnels. Between January to September 2017, Asquia went to Beckwith's house a total of 5 times and stayed there working on the tunnels for days to weeks at a time. Daniel would pick Asquia up at his parents' house in the early morning, around 3 a.m. Although Daniel only lived 14 minutes away from Asquia, he prolonged the drive for hours in order to mask his home's actual location.
He used to blindfold my son with dark glasses and drive him for as much as 1-2 hours way out to Manassas in Virginia. So my son was under the belief that these tunnels were out in the mountains of Virginia. And then he would give him a key lanyard to hold, but lead him into his basement with Asquia holding the key lanyard and blindfolded, and he holding the other end. Take him to the hole in the ground, the shaft that leads down to the tunnel, and it's only at that point the blindfold was removed. Unfortunately, it's almost like a dog on a leash.
I'm cool with it. I mean, I told him before he ever came, I was like, this is one of the conditions.
What did you tell me what you said?
Oh, I just said, I'm concerned about people knowing exactly where this is at. And as a result, if you want to come here, put this on for duration of the drive and walking in. And he was always cool with it, so that if he did decide to ever turn on me or whatever, he'd be like, oh yeah, that's down in Lake Anna or wherever. And,
I get it,
have no
because
idea.
if North Korea bombs us,
Everyone's
you don't
gonna be
want
looking
everybody
for
coming
us.
for your bunker.
Exactly. Exactly.
I understand.
Daniel was hiding the IP address, so he couldn't see where he was at. Yeah, so he thought he was in Virginia. And I remember Asquia saying, it's like, I know what I'll do though. I'm gonna use my GPS next time to track it so that I can figure out the location. Asquia figured out that he was actually in this guy's house.
Doug Hart, a 21-year-old construction worker from Long Island, was also blindfolded when Daniel brought him to his house to work on the bunker. Just like Asquia, Daniel met him through blab.im. Dick Rocket, and yes, that's a real name, was also another man who worked on the bunker. Now, Dick Rocket is somewhat of a mystery to me, and that's because of his impressive resume. He graduated law school at Berkeley, worked in New York as an investment fund attorney, started a private space company called New Space Global, and according to Tavon, he also worked at the world's largest money manager, BlackRock. I tried reaching out to Dick, but I didn't get a response. So unfortunately, his connection to Daniel and why he was helping him dig the tunnels still eludes me.
Him and Beckwith, I remember we met up with him at a Taco Bell once. That's when Beckwith introduced him to us. But him and Beckwith were talking about investing into space mining. That was their big thing that they wanted to put money towards, space mining.
While working on the bunker, Asquia was
We're
only
like
permitted
50
to stay
years
in the
from
basement
that.
and the tunnels. Daniel kept the doors in the basement locked, so Asquia never saw the rest of the house or outside. Inside the tunnels, Daniel set up rudimentary living quarters. It was a compact space with a single mattress, a mini fridge, a microwave, and a ceiling fan. Daniel powered the tunnels with a daisy chain of power strips and extension cords. Inside the tunnels, Daniel had set up a ventilation system and Wi-Fi. There was a shower head, but using it made the floors muddy. So Asquia washed himself with wet wipes instead. There was no toilet, so he relieved himself in a bucket and masked the smell with wiper fluid. To dispose of the waste, Daniel devised a winch system to haul the bucket from the basement to the first floor, where he would dispose of it in the toilet. If Asquia needed fresh air, Daniel obliged, but he was required to wear duct-taped sunglasses while outside. Daniel didn't own a phone, so they used Google Chats. However, this wasn't an ideal form of communication, because occasionally, Asquia would lose connection due to poor Wi-Fi in the bunker. Sometimes he would have to bang on the wall near the basement door to get Daniel's attention.
I remember once, I think we had an argument about those same tunnels and the work he was doing, and he got so angry with me that he asked me to stop the car, and he jumped out the car and went by somebody. He came home afterwards, But you see, you also, as a father, you have to be careful that you run off a child permanently. Many things I told him, he would rebut it and tell me Beckwith was competent at that, Beckwith was competent at that. It was like Beckwith was a Superman. It was so...
It's crazy what you can ignore when you have that much respect for someone.
It was like he was hypnotized.
My mom caught wind of it as well, because, Asquia's parents were super close with my parents. So at some point, I think that she even kind of knew about the tunnels, and she was actually like trying to convince him to stop. She actually sat him down one day when we were hanging out, and she sort of like pleaded with him and said, yeah, like, there's no way this can be really safe.
His mother, she sat down and talked to him for over an hour, telling him about the dangers and so on. And this was after he had gone about 4 times to the tunnels. When she talked with him, he stopped going for a while, maybe a month or more.
Sometime in spring 2017, the Teal Fellowship officially passed on Equity Shark. After failing to attract new investors, Askia became worried that Equity Shark would flatline without additional capital. Therefore, he broke his promise not to go back to the tunnels and texted Daniel asking him for more work. It took a while, but Daniel finally answered.
In 2017, my son went 5 times. On the 5th time, the last time that we saw him leave, he stayed the longest.
Can you tell me about the last time you saw him alive?
Yes, as usual, Beckett was supposed to be coming maybe 11 or 12. My wife and myself were lying down in the bed waiting to see Askia leave. And finally, sometime in the wee hours of the morning, I'm not sure if it was 2 or 3 in the morning, Askia came to say he was going, he gave his mother a kiss. Little did we know that that would be the last time we would ever communicate with our son.
On September 10th, 2017, Daniel was up late browsing Reddit into the early morning. Shortly after commenting on a thread about the Equifax hackers, he fell asleep. At 2:32 a.m., Askia messaged Daniel on Google Chat. "Holy shit, bro, there's no power down here." 5 minutes later, he wrote, "And smoke in the basement." 14 minutes later, Askia sent another message. "Never mind about the smoke, but yeah, pitch black down here, and no airflow. Please try to fix when you see this." 6 hours later, Daniel woke up at approximately 9 a.m. and saw Askia's messages. Then he walked from his upstairs bedroom to the breaker box in his basement. After he felt satisfied that he fixed the problem, he wrote to Askia, "Pretty major electrical failure. Just switch it all over to a different circuit." After that, he went back upstairs to use his laptop. At 9:07 a.m., he left another comment on Reddit. 20 minutes later, Askia wrote, "Sheesh, is the fuse just done? Still nothing down here, by the way. It's a whole nother level of darkness." 2 minutes later, Daniel replied, "Oh, fuck. I thought I got the lights too. One sec." Once again, Daniel went downstairs to the basement to fix the problem. Afterwards, he went back upstairs and fell asleep. He woke up 2 hours later and wrote 4 additional comments on Reddit between 11.
My God, how often does he type on or comment on Reddit?
Daniel went downstairs to the kitchen on the main floor to fix himself something to eat. Following that, he went back upstairs to his bedroom and used his laptop. At 4 p.m., Daniel heard a beeping noise coming from the carbon monoxide detector in the dining room. He told police that it made a single beeping noise, which he understood to indicate another power failure. After waiting 20 to 30 minutes, Daniel went down to the basement to manually reset the breaker. He didn't check on Askia when he was there. At 4:16 p.m., Askia messaged Daniel, apologizing for not replying to the message he sent him at 9:29 a.m. "Yo, my bad. I was tired as fuck. I def smell smoke down here." Daniel once again went down to the basement to check the electrical service panel and reset any tripped breakers. He said that there was a single breaker tripped, which he reset. While walking up the stairs, he said that he heard a loud buzzing sound coming from the kitchen. When he went to investigate, he heard a series of popping noises coming from the circuit breaker, followed by an explosion. He said that smoke started to rise from the basement to the kitchen floor. Daniel said that he then ran down to the basement.
How bad is the smoke when you go down the steps? Is it in the finished area?
I think some of it was starting to leak out, but it's mostly in the unfinished area still at that point. There's like maybe a little trickling into the finished area.
Okay,
but
so
the unfinished area is just packed with smoke. Just seconds. I mean, it's literally just seconds packed with smoke.
Daniel said that he couldn't see Askia through the smoke, but he assumed Askia was near the dryer, which was
this
only
was
10
this
feet
was
in front of
absolutely
him.
a murder.
So you make it to here, and you're like, "Hey,
Askia, you gotta get out, fire."
And he says,
"Yo, dude."
What's the affect? Is he like, "Yo, dude," or he's like, "Yo, dude," or
it sounded more like, "Yo, dude." Sort of like that.
Okay.
It was very eerie sounding.
So what do you think at that point? I mean,
I'm just like, well, shit, I'm getting dizzy myself and starting to get real weak-kneed, and I gotta just rush out that door over there, get some fresh air.
Daniel didn't own a phone, so he tried to alert his neighbors to call 911.
I remember definitely the first time around, I just started screaming to all the neighbors, you know, help, help, fire, fire.
What were you thinking was going to happen to him at that point?
I was hoping he'd either run out there or he'd go out the back window.
This big window
Big
here.
window there, or a window well.
Well, this one's got bars on it.
Ah, well, that's not the window. Yeah, that one does have bars on it on the side. I don't think you could get out there. That doesn't have
He put bars on his.
Yeah.
Well, of course he put bars on his windows.
Yeah,
He's got
it's
a
big one. I
fucking
jumped out myself
bunker
before,
and
you know.
tunnel system
And then there's that window
for
well in
nuclear
front of the
war.
house. I thought he also could have got out
Of course,
there.
he barred his windows.
Well, preferably, he would have just gone down into the tunnels and gone out the backyard.
Why, when you are on the side of the basement, that it's not burning, it is not very smoky, and someone is on a burning smoky side, why would you direct them to go towards windows which were steel barred or barred up with plywood? Why didn't he do the obvious? Come to my voice. I am on the safe side of the basement. There's not much smoke on my side. There was a door there. He indicated that he went.
Yeah,
to
I mean,
the
it was.
door
I think this is
several times.
absolutely
So
a murder.
Why wasn't it possible?
I completely agree with the dad here.
Son to come through that door. The door must have been inaccessible.
Now, all of this happened literally just above my own backyard.
During the fire, his neighbor, Bruce LaShan, a TV reporter who lives in the house directly behind Daniel's, called 911 and ran up Chandler Street towards the fire.
I was the first person on the scene of the fire. I tried to get into the burning house to rescue Kafra, but it was just too dangerous.
Daniel said that he tried to get inside the house to save Askia a total of 4 times, but that he was driven back by the overwhelming heat. During his attempts to enter the house, he said that he removed a propane tank, gas cans, and other combustibles.
On the way out, you told me originally that you took a couple of gas cans.
Yeah,
But I never found those.
Well, one was supposed to be in the front yard and the other was on the
Okay,
side.
so I didn't get that. So
somebody might have walked off with them. Jeez.
Okay.
I'm no expert here, but this looks like some absolutely fucking terrible acting that I'd see in like a bad Hulu original like The Grim Cuddy. What? Someone must have walked off with one of the gas cans that I was put in the front yard? Jeez.
Never found them?
He said that he also...
I will say, and before we continue, people are asking, well, why would he kill him? Clearly, this guy is unhinged. I think that much is very obvious. He's very worried that everyone's out to get him. He wears the bulletproof vest when he's out in public. He duct tapes Askia's eyes, or, well, blindfolded him to get him to the tunnels. Duct tapes his eyes so that way he's blind when he goes outside for fresh air because he's afraid Askia may turn on him at some point and tell people where his bunker is. So I think what may have happened is he got this fucked up idea that Askia was plotting to reveal his location or turn against him, and he killed him for it. That would be my guess.
also tried to dig a hole, hoping to enter the tunnel from his backyard, but gave up because he was too tired. Several firefighters arrived between 4:28 p.m. and 4:46 p.m. They struggled to make a path through the basement due to severe hoarding conditions. It took firefighters approximately a minute and a half to 2 minutes to traverse the short distance from the basement side entrance to the fire. It only took 2 to 3 sprays of water, lasting approximately 15 to 30 seconds, to extinguish the fire. When the steam finally cleared, firefighters found Askia's lifeless body. Sometime later, Daniel was taken by fire and rescue personnel to the hospital to be treated for smoke inhalation and minor burns. It was later determined that the fire was caused by a defective outlet.
If I tell you where Askia was found, you gonna be cool with that?
I mean, I want to know. Might be a little upset, but I'm guessing it was...
You cool with me telling him where Askia was found and all? But Askia's found in the laundry room.
Wow, I was so close to getting him.
Oh, man.
How in the...
They could have picked him up and taken him. I was so close. Well...
How could anyone watch this and think for even 1 second this wasn't a murder? That is not how anyone would respond to a situation like this. No, this is like worse than YouTuber apology level acting.
May not have been anything you could have done.
Oh, wow. I mean, that was just awful. So close. I almost rescued him. I almost rescued him.
Let me ask.
Holy shit.
I have a daughter who is learning disabled after Askia was deceased without us knowing it. She kept saying, oh, my brother is coming home this weekend. My brother is coming home this weekend because apparently he had talked to her until they will come home the next weekend. Little did we know that that very same weekend we were supposed to be coming home was the weekend he died. We didn't know for about 2 days. We didn't watch local news. We weren't aware there was a fire in Bethesda. We just weren't aware. That happened on Tuesday, September the 12th. They said Askia was burnt beyond recognition. He could not be identified, and that I would have to get dental records to verify their contention that it was him. It's so difficult to explain how you feel in a situation like that, but I knew I had to tell my wife. I called her. I said, Claudia,
Jesus,
you have got to come home now. I said, I cannot tell you everything, but there are 3 cops in our house right now, and you need to come home immediately. Claudia came to the door, remarkably poised and calm, and I was shocked to see that Claudia did not break down and cry, because I know my wife. It was her only son, and she had him late in life. She had him when she was 40 or 41, somewhere around there. And after they left, Claudia truly broke down. She broke down, really broke down. She came up to me, she was pounding me on my chest, and she said, so our son is gone, so our son is gone. And I distinctly remember that night when we went to bed. It was like she was having a bad dream. She was repeating over and over, like almost in a sleep. She was repeating, I want back my son.
Jesus Christ.
She was saying, I want back my son. And I told her, you know that's not going to happen. I guess I was being brutally frank. I said, you know that's not going to happen. You know that's impossible.
I think Askia was legitimately deceived. You know, I think
he was brainwashed.
He was sort of led on by a person.
It wasn't even deception. It was straight brainwashing.
That he was interested in sort of bettering his life, or you know, helping him with this, you know, being invested in his company he was trying to get up off the ground. And I think that in a sense sort of made Askia, or convinced Askia, that doing this would sort of get him closer to that goal. But he definitely wasn't. He was working with somebody that didn't have his best interests at heart.
I feel like there are a lot of things
for
that
sure
don't make sense, or as to how things may or may have not happened. You know, there's just a lot of confusion in my mind. There was an electrical fire that sort of blocked whatever the only way for him to have gotten in and out of those tunnels was, and why was the fire started there? And why did it happen? It's hard to find the justification or like the underlying logic, at least for me, as to why things happened the way they did.
I've never lost somebody that close to me. That was the first time that happened to me, so I like really ingest that. Still haven't really ingested it, to be honest with you. I haven't really like taken that moment in.
I was very angry. You know, I was furious actually, because, you know, now I knew that there was another person who was involved. I wanted him to be held accountable, you know? I think the screwed up part about it is, even if you know, we got what we wanted, like if he was put away for life, that would only be a semblance of what I feel like we could consider justice, because it's not going to change the fact that Askia is gone. You know,
Never does, but
we can't
at
bring
the
him
very
back.
least, it gets this
I mean,
guy
he's been denied
out.
the rest of his life because of somebody else's
Then he
negligence.
can't do it to anyone else. Because, I mean, according so far to the story, Askia wasn't the only person, right? He mentioned, was it the Dick Rocket guy? Someone else had also worked on the tunnels. It wasn't just Askia that Beckwith had convinced to lend aid to. And then there was also the construction worker that we didn't get to hear from, but it wasn't just Askia. The unfortunate name, well, not an unfortunate name, Dick Rocket's a fucking hype name. Just unfortunate in the situation here because it's a super sad story. Yeah, his real name was Dick Rocket.
Let's go. We'll take you upstairs first. There's not really any damage up there, so ease you into it. I think there was a camera of mine that was like on this tripod.
3 days after the fire, Daniel went back to his home with fire investigators and police.
Dude's absolutely the biggest shit tier actor of all time.
Was on the bed right here.
Man, he really got over the whole death thing quickly. Just you know, where's the camera?
Where you were when you noticed the yeah, when I heard the beep. Okay. Yeah, no, laptop's not here. What's all the chlorine? Oh, just for cleaning. Just for cleaning purposes. I mean, this place needed cleaning.
Yeah, a little bit.
Really did. Take a look at the top of the stairs.
Man, he really pulled himself together. Oh, man.
You just got a lot of cash laying around?
Yeah, I know. This is way messier than it was before. Even, yeah, I mean, it wasn't in good shape before, but you can walk through a lot.
Daniel, I'm gonna put a measuring cup full of money out on the front porch so we got it on the way out, okay?
This place is so creepy. Yeah. Because he was just a filthy, hoarding lunatic. Thanks, Risa Brock. So, okay, this is a misconception going on right now. He's not a billionaire. He had $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, but it doesn't seem like he ever cashed it out. So I believe, according Oki said, at the time of this, he had about 16 million in actual cash, but he had the $1 billion worth of Bitcoin somewhere that he never cashed it out. So he's not actually a billionaire if he doesn't have access to it, and it looks like he never cashed it out. But yeah, multi-millionaire, very, very wealthy.
Should have worn my boots today. Now I'm afraid of tetanus.
They don't go into the basement and show the body or anything, right? No. Okay. Good.
I'll try to mark them. Okay. So if we have to do any more work in here, we'll make sure.
He's in jail now. I don't know. I'm going to guess he's not.
It took nearly 3 weeks for a team of 24 firefighters working 8 to 10-hour days to clean Daniel Beckwith's home. The process was prolonged by safety concerns over combustible chemicals stored in every room of the house and within piles of trash. By the time they finished cleaning, $10,000 in cash and traveler's checks were found hidden within the mess. 8 months after Iskia's death, Daniel was arrested on May 25th, 2018.
And I got this phone call
Okay,
from Detective
maybe.
Smith, and she was on the line, and she said, Mr. Kafra, we have arrested Daniel Beckwith. I almost fainted. I was shocked.
On May 31st, 2018, a grand jury charged him with involuntary manslaughter and second-degree depraved heart murder, which is the killing of another person while acting with extreme disregard of human life, despite not explicitly intending to kill. On September 10th, 2018, Iskia's parents filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Daniel Beckwith on the anniversary of their son's death. Montgomery County officials also sued Daniel and his father, David Beckwith. The lawsuit requested that a judge order the Beckwith family to fill the tunnels and demolish the home. The entrance to the tunnel shaft drops 20 feet, and they're estimated to span 200 feet in multiple directions underground, stretching out as far as public roads and across property lines. Today, the home still stands, and the tunnels have not yet been filled up.
Askia told me lots of things that he wasn't even supposed to tell me.
Like what?
Told me about things down in the tunnel, and, quite a few things that he was supposed to be literally keeping secret. For instance, he told me about a special chamber underground in which Beckwith told him not to go in there. It is dangerous, it has explosives and other dangerous stuff. I got the impression that that chamber underground had a door leading into it, and that the door was kept locked.
Right now, 2 more stories you need to know about as we head into this week. A bizarre case will finally come to an end tomorrow. Daniel Beckwith is set to be sentenced.
Now, I want to let you know,
that is great news.
Murder, the minimum sentence for that is 10 years. And I think the maximum was either 25 or 30 years. The judge at the sentencing gave him 9 years. 1 less than the minimum. I couldn't understand it. Here's her explanation. She don't believe that what happened rises to the level of a second-degree depraved heart murder. And because of that, this is the reason she gave him 9 years. And
what the fuck is the point in having a minimum sentencing when it comes to a crime? What the fuck? The reason the minimum is there is that it's not supposed to go lower. How can you just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna disregard that? I don't... What? How does that make any sense? I don't think he paid off the judge. It doesn't seem like he had access to his money. That makes no fucking... It's a goddamn law. Like by giving less than the law dictated minimum, wouldn't that be breaking the law from her? What? Can that happen? I've never heard of that. Likely those are guidelines, not mandatory. I mean, I'm of course not familiar with this law nor this case, but still, that seems very odd. Thanks to resub, Anson. Don't ask Chad about the law. You'd be surprised. That was a hard voice crack. You'd be surprised. Sometimes Chad is right on the money with what they say about some of the law stuff. I know at least 2 people in here actual practicing lawyers at the moment. Like, legitimate, not just shit posters. Though I didn't see any of their names come up when it came to this one, so I can't exactly confirm that it was accurate information. Thanks to the Prime Hungry and the resub soy. That's fucking wild to me, Kopi. Hold on, I gotta pee really bad though. Just give me 1 second.
She actually praised him. She said he's so bright, he's so intelligent, he has a lot to give to society. She said that he reminded her of her brother, who's a bright guy, who's a nuclear physicist. And I felt humiliated. I felt humiliated because I was a victim and he was the perpetrator of a crime. And how could you be praising the perpetrator of a crime at his sentencing? What about my feelings? Don't I matter? You know, you are praising this gentleman who did a criminal act, who 12 jurors believe committed.
Okay, how about this? Even if he didn't kill him on purpose, which I really do still feel he did, what the fuck does he offer society? He walks around in a bulletproof vest and hires people to work on an underground bunker in complete secrecy, blindfolding them, refusing to let them outside with their eyes open without giving them duct tape glasses, and just sits in his fucking hoarded, shit-stained, diaper-filled house. What is he offering to society? But he doesn't even offer money. He doesn't spend his money. Half of his money was in fucking measuring glasses. He doesn't even fucking spend it. That makes no sense. That actually makes no sense. Now I am starting to believe the conspiracy that he did somehow pay off someone somewhere. That makes no sense. No sense. Even if, again, you don't find him guilty of killing on purpose, or what was he charged with? The depraved heart manslaughter? I'm getting charges mixed up. Even if you don't find him guilty of that, saying that he has a lot to offer society, so I'm not going to give him the minimum. But he, for the last fucking 20 years, has done nothing but live in a hoarder's house and build an underground network of tunnels because he's afraid of a nuclear fallout. Jesus Christ. He doesn't spend the money either, so he's not even helping, like, businesses around the area or something. Oh my god, that, even just hearing that is infuriating. What the fuck? Thanks to the resub. Drool, Lemonade, and the 5 gift subs, Jacob. Thank you, man. The Prime Samurai. I mean, I guess it could be racism. Where was this again? I'm forgetting. But even that I would find hard to believe. It's in Maryland. I'm not too familiar with Maryland. I couldn't tell you if, like, Maryland is particularly racist in the area. It is possible. Like, I can't write it off. But I'm starting to believe more in the briberies thing. Because, again, he had tons of money. He never spent any of his money. Maybe he dumped it all at once into this. But yeah, I mean, again, yeah, racism is, I mean, it's certainly a possibility.
Committed murder and manslaughter. And then she gave him 9 years. That hurt my feelings. And you know the strange thing about
yeah, it's a fucking miscarriage of justice.
She's an elected judge, and I had voted for her.
Daniel only spent a little over 3 years in prison before being released.
Oh, God,
his depraved
what the
heart
fuck?
murder conviction was overturned by a panel of 3 judges that also upheld his involuntary manslaughter conviction. They ruled that there wasn't enough evidence to meet the standard of depraved heart murder, which entails an extreme disregard for human life.
Did they watch the body cam footage?
His exhaustive resources, I'm talking about his financial resources, and hired his attorneys to file an appeal against both convictions.
A few months after his sentence was reduced, he became eligible for parole. In July 2022, he was released from prison.
Huge.
Mr. Beckwith is currently out on probation, and in my opinion, he's got away with murder.
I also agree with that.
While I was returning to Toronto, it occurred to me that Iskia and Daniel were reflections of one another. Daniel didn't care about anybody but himself, while Iskia loved others and was loved in turn. It was only due to the everlasting bonds that Iskia had forged during his short life that Daniel's callous apathy and negligence was able to irreparably scar so many. Furthermore, I'm still left wondering about the fire. Prosecutors argued in court that Iskia could not escape because his route out was blocked by severe hoarding conditions in the basement. In that case, why was Daniel able to enter the basement several times during the fire and roam freely enough to remove gas canisters?
That's a great fucking
I
question.
also don't understand why Daniel told him to escape through windows, which mostly had steel bars on
And
them,
that's what the father
instead of
mentioned.
directing Iskia safely to one of the doors that he testified he had used repeatedly. Additionally, I struggle to grasp why Daniel reacted so casually during the 14 hours preceding Iskia's death.
It's strange that someone who's running from a fire could end up in a position in which they appear to be lying on a reclining chair.
For now, Daniel's testimony and the official theory presented in court is all we have to go off of. But personally, I don't think I'll ever stop pondering about what exactly happened on that day. Here's to the memory of Iskia Kafra.
I don't know, it's probably like years later that it really hit me that I'm not gonna see.
What a great fucking point here. I actually didn't even think about this one. Because he did confirm he went down there multiple times. He even said he removed those gas canisters, and that's in that interview. He's like, oh, one of the gas canisters should be on the front lawn. He's like, it wasn't there. Oh, geez. I mean, maybe someone must have taken it. That is a great point. If his exit was blocked by so much hoarding debris, how the fuck could Daniel go move around in there, maneuver things, and freely just take some shit out? And again, guiding him to a window instead of just saying, hey, come with me to the door, that he is using repeatedly. It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. That first point is a great one that I didn't even consider.
One of the doors that he... Personally, I don't think I'll ever stop pondering about what exactly happened on that day. Here's to the memory of Iskia Kafra.
He's a tier 1 JD. Never said many.
Probably like years later.
Thank you again,
that it really
Anna.
hit me that I'm not gonna
Thank you
see
for the generosity, Anna.
my friend again.
I was devastated. I'm still devastated. It feels like there's just a very large void in my life, a sense of emptiness that's gonna be there probably for the rest of my life.
I was very shy, you know what I mean? I was very like to myself, and he never made me feel like yeah, he never made me feel like I was a loner, like an outcast.
Like I said, his earnest home in a box. That box has been there for 5 years. It has not been touched. It's in the same position. We have a pit there, a kind of shrine for him, with a large photo of him in his ROTC uniform and, you know, something saying love you to the moon and back. And there can be no closure.
No, there never is in something like that, man. Jesus Christ. Oh, wow.
For this
Fucking
documentary,
rough.
I traveled from Toronto, Canada to the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, where I tracked down and conducted interviews with Iskia's friends and family. Additionally, I was able to work with brilliant people such as Ryan Probert, who is an award-winning composer, Humanot, who made incredible 3D renders for this project,
Oh, that was
and
custom?
Tate Hover, who made all of the on-camera
Holy shit.
interviews look gorgeous. This was only made possible due to the generous contributions of my backers on Patreon. I have many more ideas like this in the works, and through your support, I will continue to make each documentary bigger and better. I'm trying to hit a goal of $3,000 a month on Patreon, and with your help, I believe that's a very achievable goal. And as always, until next time,
Best documentary maker on YouTube, man. Oki kills it every time. If you're a fan of
Cool.
documentaries, absolutely go support his Patreon. Absolute bangers, nothing but. And he's a great guy. Oki's just an all-around great guy.